Ohai. Egypt, the transcontinental state located in North Africa and in the Middle East. Sinai Peninsula. In the northeast borders on Israel and partially recognized state of Palestine, in the south, on Sudan, in the west on Libya. In the north the territory of the country is washed by waters of the Mediterranean Sea, in the east, the Red Sea. At the same time both seas are connected by means of artificially built Suez Canal. To Europe the name of the country of Egypt came from ancient Greek language, in Reklinovi, at the time the most widespread reading. At the beginning of the first millennium BC, when ancient Greeks began to get into Egypt, Memphis at a boundary of the delta and valley of Nile was the first of the biggest cities which it met. The people of Arabian Peninsula, Western Asia and Mesopotamia use other name of Egypt, Mis. The inhabited place, the city. The etymology of this word, probably, is connected with density of population of Egypt and a large number of the cities located close from each other. On a dialect of modern Egyptian Arabs this name sounds as Mazar. Mazar. In ancient Egypt inhabitants called the country Takemet. Came. The black earth. On color of fertile soil of the low valley of Nile, contrary to the red earth. It is the desert. In modern Coptic this self-name remained and said as Cam. Other ancient name of Egypt area. Mitzrayim. The name of Egypt in Hebrew, not dual number. In Ugaritsky letters called Egypt Musrim, the Amansky archive called Misri, in the Assyrian and Babylon records call Egypt Musar. Official Arab Indoni. Self-name. Of Egypt Miz. Colloquial Mazar. At a turn of the 4th millennium BB about 20 city-states on headwaters of Nile, and as much on the lower current, were integrated under the power of two governors. Soon war between the top and lower Egypt ended with a victory of the Tsar of the top Egypt who became the absolute ruler of the country. So there was a big state with the uniform center operated by officialdom led by the pharaoh. Till the 1300 BB, reunification of Egypt by the pharaoh Narmer with which the early kingdom with the capital in the Verkhnipetsky city the begins. Till the 2700, the beginning of the ancient kingdom with the capital in Nizhnepetsky Memphis. Menefer. Till the 2000, a new era of history of Egypt, the average kingdom, with the capital again in the Verkhnipetsky city of Thebes. Uasit. 1700 BB, invasion of Hyksos. 1279 BB-1213 BB, Ramses II's reign. 1274 BB, the Battle of Kadesh. 670 BB, conquest of Egypt by the Assyrian Tsar Assarhaddon. 655 BB, exile of Assyrian Psammetichi I and the basis in the last independent Egyptian kingdom with the capital in Sais. 525 BB, conquest of Egypt by the Persian Tsar Cambyses II, the territory of Egypt or a part of the state of Achaemenid. 332 BB, conquest of Egypt by Alexander of Macedon. Alexandria is founded. 305 BB-30 BB, the Greek dynasty Ptolemyev in Egypt. 30-year BB-395, Egypt as a part of ancient Rome. The 1st century, distribution of Christianity. 395, 645, Egypt as a part of Byzantium. 451 G, formation of National Coptic Egyptian Church. 645, 1171, Egypt as a part of the Arab Caliphate. Distribution of Islam. Arabization of Egypt. 868, 905, Board of a Dynasty Tulanidaf. 972 year or based Cairo. Beginning of Board Fatimidaf. 1171, Saladin's invasion. Beginning of Board Ayyubidaf. 1250, Revolution of Mamelukes. Aybek becomes the Sultan. 1260, Reflection of invasion of Mongols. 1261, Mamelukes invite Caliph Abbasidov to a post of the supreme ecclesiastic. 1347, the beginning of Black Death, catastrophic epidemic of the plague which struck crushing blow on the population and economy of Egypt and neighboring countries. 1382, 1517, a dynasty Bradzita. The Circassian Mamelukes. 1517, 1914, Egypt as a part of the Ottoman Empire. It deputies Pasha's rule. 1798, 1799, invasion of the French under Napoleon's leadership. 1801, invasion of British. 1805, coming to power of the Pasha Muhammad Ali, the Albanian actually independent of Istanbul. 1811, beating of Mamelukes. 1811, 1818, War of the Minding Arabian Wahhabites, defeat of Wahhabites by armies of Muhammad Ali. 1823, conquest of Sudan. 1863, 1879, Board Ismail Pasha. 1858, 1869, completion of construction of the modern Suez Canal under the leadership of Frenchman Ferdinand de Lesseps. 1881, the anti-Egyptian mutiny of Maktis in Sudan. 1881-1882, Ahmad Orabi Pasha's revolt. 1882, the English occupation and formal preservation of the rights of Turkey on this territory. C. Anglo-Egyptian War. 1914-1922, Egypt Protectorate of Great Britain. 1922, independence of the Kingdom Egypt headed by the King Ahmad Fuad I. Excavation of a tomb of Tutankhamun. 1947-1949, participation of Egypt in the First Arab-Israeli War. Capture by Egypt of the Gaza Strip. 1952, the group of soldiers overthrows the King Farouk I. The baby Ahmad Fuad II becomes the king, the regent Muhammad Abd al-Munim. 1953, Egypt is proclaimed a republic. Mohammed Naguib became the president. End of Board of a dynasty of Muhammad Ali. 1954, Mohammed Naguib resigns, he is succeeded by Gamal Abdel Nasser. Withdrawal from Egypt of the English troops. 1956, nationalization of the Suez Canal. Attack on Egypt of Israel, Great Britain and France. Closing of navigation across the Suez Canal. 1957. April. Year, the opening of the Suez Canal for passage of the vessels after introduction of troops of the Union. 1958 Egypt and Syria formed the Integrated Arab Republic. Here, under the leadership of Nasser. 1960-1970 the USSR builds the Aswan hydroelectric power station in Or. 1961 Syria leaves structure of Or. The Integrated Arab Republic became the unitary state. 1967 Participation of Or in the Third Arab-Israeli Six-Day War. Capture by Israel of the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza Strip. Closing of navigation on the channel. 1970 Gamal Abdal's death of Nasser. Anwar Sadat becomes the new president. Reorientation of Or from the USSR to the USA. 1971 Or was transformed to the Arab Republic of Egypt. 1973 War of the Doomsday with Israel, for Egypt status quo which ended with preservation. 1975 On June. The end of mine clearing of the Suez Canal and his opening for passage of the vessels. 1977 Armed conflict with Libya. 1979 Signing of the world with Israel in exchange for the Sinai Peninsula. Exile of Egypt from League of Arab States. Withdrawal of the Israeli armed forces from Sinai. 1981 Murder of the President Anwar Sadat by religious fundamentalists, coming to power of Hosni Mubarak. 1989 Restoration of Egypt in League of Arab States. 2011 Since January 25 in Egypt the Massachusetts national disorders which developed into a civil revolt between supporters of the President Hosni Mubarak and opposition didn't stop. Resignation of Hosni Mubarak, who delegated the power to the Supreme Military Council, became on February 11, 2011 result of disorders. 2012 presidential elections. On May 23 and on May 24 one tour, on June 16 and on June 17 the second tour. Mohamed Morsi became the president. 2013, on July 3 the group of soldiers overthrows Mohamed Morsi. 2015, on March 16 it is declared construction of the new capital of Egypt which, according to creators, will be able to unload the overpopulated Cairo. 2016, on April 8 Cairo and Riyadh signed the agreement on construction of the bridge through the Red Sea. 2017, on June 14 the Parliament of Egypt approved transfer of 2 islands of Saudi Arabia. Egypt borders in the west on Libya, in the south on Sudan, in the east on Palestinian Authority Israel, has also sea border with Saudi Arabia and Jordan. It is washed by the Mediterranean Sea, in the east in the north the Red Sea. Egypt possesses one of the largest artificially built channels, the Suez Canal, which connects the Mediterranean and Red Seas, opening thereby a short way from Atlantic to the Indian Ocean. Across the territory of Egypt from the south on the north one of 2 longest rivers in the world, Nile flows. Subsoil of the country contains reserves of oil, natural gas, iron ore, phosphates, limestone, manganese, zinc, lead. The Nile River, one of the biggest rivers in the world. 6853 km. This great river also became a civilization cradle in the region. About 96% of the territory of the country occupy deserts, 4% are the share of the delta and the valley of the Nile River. gazelles, foxes, jerboas, hyenas, jackals, hippopotamuses, crocodiles, camels, a large number of birds, insects, lizards and snakes are characteristic of fauna of Egypt. Egypt is in limits subtropical, a small part, and tropical, most part, of climatic zones. In the state, the tropical desert climate prevails. The Egyptian summer very hot. In the afternoon, stem of thermometer in places can reach a 50-degree point in a shadow, but is always much more cool at night. Daily temperature differences are rather big. Not so big interseasonal temperature differences. On the coasts, daily and seasonal fluctuations it is slightly less than in the depth of the territory. Winters in Egypt more cool. Temperature in the afternoon in January usually varies within 20–25 C. Nights are cold. Temperature averages 10 C, and in deserts also weak frosts are possible. 2–5 C. Osakov drops out very little, up to 25 May a year. Only on far north of Egypt and in mountains of the Sinai Peninsula the amount of precipitation reaches 200 May a year. Egypt, the Republic. The head of state, the president, who at the same time is also the commander-in-chief of armed forces. The head of the government, the prime minister. The supreme legislative body, the unicameral National Assembly. The lower house of parliament, National Assembly. Majlis ash-Shab. Consists of 518 deputies, of which are chosen 508 on a majority system, and 10 are appointed the president. In National Assembly there are quotas for workers and peasants and also for women. On January 29, 2011, the position of the vice president abolished in 1981, to which the former head of intelligence of Egypt Omar Suleiman is appointed as reanimated de facto. On February 11, 2011, the President Mubarak delegated the power to the Supreme Military Council. In 2012 presidential elections, at which, having received 51.73% of votes, Mohamed Morsi won, are held. On June 21, 2012 he entered the president's position. In the night of July 4, 2013 Mohamed Morsi was overthrown by the people with assistance of army and police. As a result of the last elections, which took place on May 26, 28, 2014, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi became the president. The largest opposition movements. The Muslim Brotherhood. It is forbidden. Activists participate as independent candidates. A new party VAFT. Total number about 380,000 people, from them about 300,000 serve in ground forces, about 45,000 in naval forces and about 35,000 in the air force. Suez Canal. Income from his operation in 2011 was $5.22 billion. Advantages. They developed tourist infrastructure. Money transfers from the citizens working abroad. Duties on transportation of freights through the Suez Canal. Products of agriculture, especially cotton. In world production of all cotton, the share of Egypt makes about 3%. Light industry. Weaknesses. Dependence on import. The threat of terrorism caused temporary recession of income from tourism. In 2009, because of crisis, tourism revenues decreased again. DDD per capita in 2008, $5.4 thousand. The 135th place in the world. In agriculture, 32% of the population working are engaged in the industry of 17%, in services industry of 51%. Unemployment of 8.4% in 2008. Below the poverty line is 20% of the population. Extraction of phosphates is concentrated near the coast of the Red Sea, in the valley of Nile, iron ore, in the delta of Nile, table salt. From branches of manufacturing industry, it is especially developed textile, mainly, production of cotton yarn. 275,000 tons. Yarn in 1995-1996. And fabrics, and also food and flavoring and sewing. The main centers: Cairo, Alexandria, El Mahala, Al Kubra. Black, Helwan, and collar. Nag Hammadi, Ismailia. Metallurgy, mechanical engineering, including machine tool construction, a car and aviassembly, car building. Helwan. Shipbuilding. Port Said, Alexandria. Oil processing, petrochemical. Suez, Cairo, Alexandria, Tanta. Industry, production of mineral fertilizers. Aswan, Suez, Helwan, Abu Zabal, Kafr el Zayat, etc. Building materials. In agriculture, cotton, rice, corn, others grain, bean, fruit, vegetables are cultivated. The cattle gets divorced. About 65% of crops of cotton. Data for the 1970th years. Fall to the Lower Egypt, 25% to Central Egypt and 10% to the Top Egypt. In the Top Egypt, Dander and Asmonis grades, on average, Giza 66 and Giza 72. In the Lower Egypt, Giza 45, Giza 67, Giza 68, Giza 69, Giza 70 and Manufir Sod. All these grades are removed after World War II except for Asmuni, cultivated over 110 years and occupying about 7% of cultivated area. Export in 2017, $23.53 billion. It is crude oil and oil products, cotton, textiles, fruit, vegetables. Main buyers: EU 10.9%, Italy 10%, USA 7.4%, Great Britain 5.7%, Turkey 4.4%, Germany 4.3%, India 4.3%. Import in 2017, $53.02 billion. It is industrial output: food, chemical products, timber, fuel. Main suppliers: China 7.9%, the EU -5.2%, Germany -4.8%, Saudi Arabia -4.6%, the USA -4.4%, Russia -4.3%. The domestic policy of the Arab Republic of Egypt is defined by his economic preferences. Now the greatest receipts in treasury of the state give payments for the right of passage of the vessels across the Suez Canal. On the second place, the tourism, which received in recent years the special status in the country. On the third place, oil and gas production. Thus, the domestic policy of the country is focused, first of all, on maintenance and development of the budget-forming directions. The companies which are created in the country for investments, for example, into tourist industry, receive powerful tax benefits. To the country, import of any currency in unlimited number is allowed. Investments of the foreign companies into the real estate of the country are encouraged. At all this Egypt till February 11, 2011 was the country of one governor. The President of the Republic since 1981 was Permanent Hosni Mubarak, who under pressure of national weight resigned on February 11, 2011. The policy which he pursued didn't cause an active protest of most of the population until recently. Political struggle in the Republic was practically absent. In any case, in her open forms. Nevertheless, some activists, generally thanks to the internet and not without risk for the safety, openly criticized separate aspects of policy of the existing mode, for example, use of tortures by police officers. The economic backwardness in many industries forced the government to make efforts in overcoming illiteracy of some segments of the population, implementation of modern information technologies, increase in the standard of living of the citizens, many of which still live below the poverty line. The peace treaty of Egypt with Israel signed in 1979 works to this day. Despite it, the authorities of Egypt watchfully treat communications with this country. No more cases of manifestation of interest of secret police in the residents of Egypt having contacts on the party. For this reason, Egyptians try to abstain from visits to Israel. The mistrust is promoted also by the fact that Egypt gives support of Palestinian Authority and in particular, to the Gaza Strip. At the same time, it doesn't extend to the tourists visiting the country. Since 2006 with Israel, the regular excursion message is opened. Anyone can leave without problems to Jerusalem, visit Eilat, the Dead Sea and other interesting places. Between Sudan and Egypt there is a dispute over an occasion of accessory of a so-called Triangle of Haleba. In 1899, Great Britain and Egypt announced Sudan the condominium. The northern border of the country was established on the 22nd parallel. The city of Halei formally departed to Egypt. In 1902, England unilaterally changed border, having transferred a triangle to Sudan. On November 12, 1955, Sudan gained independence. In 1958, Egypt occupied the area Haleba. Then the triangle was given to use of Sudan. In 1992, Sudan caused extreme discontent of Egypt, having given the coast of a triangle to concession of the Canadian oil company International Petroleum Corporation. In 1993-1994 there were armed conflicts on border of Egypt and Sudan. In 1995 Egypt sent to the region of army and took under the control all disputed lands, except for the city of Haleba. In 2000 Sudan disengaged troops from Haleba, lands appeared completely under the Egyptian control. In August 2002, the President of Sudan Omar al-Bashir reported to the press that he sent to the Union Security Council the appeal about revision of accessory of lands as the Triangle of Haleba is the Sudanese territory. For the first half of the year 2005, commodity turnover of Russia and Egypt was $450 million. Export of Russia to Egypt at the same time reached $387 million, and the Egyptian export to Russia made $61 million. Egypt imports steel, oil products and grain from Russia, exports some products of agriculture. On November 22, 2005, Russia and Egypt completed negotiations on Russia's accession to the World Trade Organization, having signed the relevant agreement. Russia, in exchange on the Egyptian readiness, provided him some trade preferences on a number of the goods exported by him. In Cairo, the plant on assembly of cars of the brand Vaz is open. After election as the president of the country of Mohamed Morsi, an interstate relationship with Russia became more intensive. The tragedy pushed away on September 11, 2001 the USA from many countries of the Arab world, including from Egypt. However, recently the American investors even more often turn a look on the country. In December 1991, Egypt, one of the first states of the world, recognized sovereignty of Kazakhstan. Diplomatic relations between Egypt and Kazakhstan were established in 1992, and in 1993 the president of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, paid to Cairo an official visit. Egypt, the only foreign countries where there is a street with a name of the Kazakh educator. In the city of Cairo, at the petition of the ambassador Bulak Kontashian in 1998, the street of Abay, on which at the time there was an embassy of Kazakhstan, opened. For 2009, the active trade balance between the countries exceeded $250 million United States dollars. The number of the Kazakhstan tourists in Egypt in 2008 made about 3,000 people. The Arab Republic of Egypt is administratively divided into 27 governorates. Mu'afa. In 2008, the governorates of Halou and An are created on October 6. In December 2009, the governorate Luxor is created. Governorates are divided into the administrative centers or areas, markaz, and the cities. Markaza in turn are divided into nakiya, areas. The construction of the new capital of the country is completed. The territory about 700 km. The prospective population about 5 million people, own international airport. In 45 km to the east from Cairo, which has two loose capital functions. Moving of presidential office, cabinet and parliament is supposed to be finished to the middle of 2019. Growth rate of the population of 2.51% a year. Fertility -3. 53 births on the woman. For 2016. Average life expectancy makes 70.4 years. 68 at men and 73 at women. Ethnic structure: Arabs of 75-85%, Egyptians of 10-20%, and also Nubians, Abaj, Berbers and others. Religions: Muslims. Generally Sunnites. 79-90% Coptic Christians. Egyptians of 10-20%, other Christians of 1%. Literacy -75%. Urban population -45%. Egypt is the most inhabited country in the Middle East and the second most populated on the African continent.
The population quickly grew during the period from 1970 to 2010 in connection with achievements in medicine and increase in productivity of agriculture, so-called Green Revolution. At Napoleon's invasion in 1798, the population of Egypt totaled only 3 million.
In 1939, the population of Egypt made 16.5 million people. The population is concentrated lengthways and in the delta of the Nile River. In particular, Cairo and Alexandria, and also near the Suez Canal. About 90% of the population adhere to Islam, most of the others of Christianity, first of all Coptic Orthodox faith. Along with religious affiliation, Egyptians can be divided into those someone live in the large city centers and Felik, the farmers living in rural areas. Egyptians are the biggest ethnic group today, minus 99.6% of the total number of the population. Ethnic minorities include the Turks, Greeks, the Arab Bedouins living in East Desert and on the Sinai Peninsula, Berbers and the Nubian communities living along the Nile River. There are such tribes as Baj, the Hausan, which gradually assimilate in process of growth of an urbanization. According to International Organization for Migration, about 2.7 million Egyptians live abroad. About 70% of the Egyptian migrants live in the Arab countries. In Saudi Arabia, in Libya, in Jordan, to Kuwait and in other countries of the region. Another 30% live in the basic in Europe and North America. 5 the United States, in Canada CAD and 90000 in Italy. In Egypt there is also an unknown number of the refugees and persons who are looking for shelters, by estimates, from 2 to 3 million people. About Palestinian refugees and about recently arrived refugees from Iraq, the biggest group of refugees of the Sudan live. Once representative Greek and Jewish communities in Egypt almost disappeared and only the small number of representatives lives in the country, but many Jews make a pilgrimage to Egypt on religious holidays. Several important Jewish archaeological and historical sites are in Cairo, Alexandria and other cities.
On distribution of income, by estimates from 35 to 40% of the population of Egypt earn less than the sum of equivalent $2 a day, while it is possible to call 2-3% of the population rich. The Egyptian capital of Cairo is the leading center of production of the Arab cinema products and modern Arab music.
The state broadcasting company ERTU, Egyptian Radio and Television Union, the European program. It is started 1934, broadcasts in the English and French languages. The Voice of Arabs is started in 1953. The Cultural Program is started in 1957. Includes General Program. Radio stations. It is started in 1934. Radio of the Middle East is started in 1964. Radio Quran it is started in 1964. The Musical Program it is started in 1968. The Youth Program it is started in 1975. Educational program. Regional radio stations. I started in 1981. Radio songs. It is started in 2000. R21 TV channels. It is started in 1960. And R22. It is started in 1961. Satellite TV channel, Nile TV channel, and 6 regional TV channels. Egypt is one of the places the most interesting to scientists. The science Egyptology is engaged in studying of culture, language and the history of ancient Egypt. Its sciences consider the Egyptology basis. F. Champollion's publication of September 14, 1822 of The Letter to Mr. Dasi, in which the system of the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic letter was precisely and truly described.
Champollion made the message about it in Paris in Academy of Inscriptions on September 22, 1822.
At the Cairo Egyptian Museum there is a memorial with busts of 23 great Egyptologists of the world. Among them there is a bust of 5. S. Volynishev, the famous Russian Egyptologist which appeared there in 2006. Also their busts of the following Egyptologists are presented. F.
Shab, Johann Deumichen.
1833-1894. Conradus Lehmann-Zavan. 1809-1893. Chach, 5. Goodwin. 1817-1878. E. Roos S. Wyert E. Hinksavan. 1792-1866. 50. Vasali N. 1812-1887. E. Rugshdi. 1842-1930. K. R. Lepsius Shens. T. Deveria. 1831-1871. 1. Rosalini, 50. Habasha N. 1906-1984. S. Gaber Free. 1892-1979. S. Hassan Ease. 1887-1961. A. Kemal Ease. 1851-1923. M.Z. Ghanim. F. Champollion A. Paranet. 1785-1870. 5. Plate N. 1836-1903. G. Naspero P. LePage N. 1822-1897. These busts surround a monument to Auguste Marietta. The main part of the population speaks Arabic and practices Islam of Sunni sense. There are also Christian Copts.
According to various data, the Christianity professes up to 15% of Egyptians, up to 90% of indigenous people adheres to Islam.
Coptic Christians are minimum presented in law enforcement agencies, the state security agencies and in public service, were exposed to discrimination in labor market on the basis of their religion. In Egypt, positions of officially banned radical Islamic organizations are rather strong. Many ideologists of Wahhabism and radical Islam were trained at the Cairo University. Within the last 30 years there was quite peacetime in religious life of Egypt. However, despite it, the conflicts between radical Islamists and Copts break out from time to time. On January 1, 2011 in Alexandria during a New Year's liturgy in the Coptic temple a terrorist attack was conducted. The bomb, which claimed the lives more than 20 people, was detonated. More than 100 people suffered.
The Christianity in Egypt arose in Alexandria and from there extended over the country.
The Alexandria Orthodox Church was founded in the middle of the 1st century by the Saint Evangelist Mark.
Also in Alexandria there is a center of the Chalcedonsky Coptic Orthodox Church, which representatives consider themselves successors of the first Egyptian Christians too.
She rejects decisions of the Chalcedonian Cathedral and adheres to Miaphysitism. The Patriarch is at the head of Coptic Church. At the moment the patriarchal throne, after the death of the Patriarch Shenouda III on March 17, 2012, is occupied by Theodore II. The residence of the Patriarch is in Alexandria. Islam later religion. It, having come in the 7th century, made Egypt the political and religious center in the Muslim world.
At Anwar Sadat, Islam acquired the status of official state religion, and Sharia became the main source of the right.
Now Islam renders immeasurably greater influence than Christianity on family and society. The principles of the secular legislation in Egypt are formed by the set of standards of the Islamic law, Sharia, which, however, works in the softened form. Islam plays the central role in life of most of Egyptians. The Adhan, an Islamic appeal to a prayer, is heard 5 times a day, having an informal impact on everything, from business to Massachusetts media and entertainments. Cairo is famous for the numerous mosques, minarets, and by right is called as the city of 1,000 minarets. Tourism is one of the main revenues of Egypt, therefore the state in every possible way contributes to the development of this industry. Resort complexes on the seacoast, in the resort towns of Sharm el-Sheikh, Hurghada, etc., are intensively under construction and modernized. In Egypt there are monuments of various eras and civilizations. The ancient Egyptian, Christian, Coptic, medieval Arab. The most visited sites: ancient Egyptian necropolises, pyramids of Giza and others, Valley of the Kings and Queens in Luxor, tombs of the nobility, temples of pharaohs, especially in Luxor and Abu Simbel, Middle Ages monuments, Islamic and Old Cairo. At the Red and Mediterranean Seas, numerous resorts for fans of diving, surfing and that similar hobbies are located. Characteristic of the Egyptian tourism is communication with locals. The manner accepted here to bargain very often takes beginners unawares.
However, in many respects it is only an obligatory part of a performance which is traditionally played between the seller and the buyer.
Having caught sight of the fauna, local dealers can significantly overstate the price, therefore it is recommended to bargain safely, with exclamations, walkouts and returns. It is also necessary to remember that, as well as in many places of a congestion of tourists, on streets of resorts there are swindlers and pocket pilferers, therefore it is necessary to watch closely values. You go to photograph, you take only the camera. You go to buy something, take the small sum of money. In difficult situations, tourists will be come to the rescue by special tourist police where it is necessary to address for the solution of questions. On statistical data of World Tourism Organization of the Union. And 2.
On the international tourist traffic in 2017, Egypt showed the largest growth of tourist flow -55.1%.
Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.